I'm Sophie, and earlier this year I officially moved to Sweden. I had bought a house here in 2023, but because of my job I couldn't yet officially move here. And then I quit and I told myself it's time now, I'm going to move. And I would say I've always been the kind of person that if I want something, I want it executed now. And I would say with my Sweden journey, it was kind of a similar story. And I often receive questions from you guys about moving to Sweden, what to keep in mind. So I thought I'd do a little video about all the things that if I were to move again, what I would keep in mind and what I would maybe do differently this time. So I would say without further ado, let's jump right in. Before you do anything, really take the time to think about what area in Sweden you are interested in. Sweden is an incredibly huge country and there's a lot of differences between the different areas. So I think it is really important to take some time to just look at all the different areas and gather information and just get a better idea of what all the different places have to offer. And I would say unless you already have a pretty clear idea what area you're interested in, maybe because you've been there many times on your travels, or you have someone live there or you have family living there, I would say this is a step that is extremely important. So I would always start by asking myself the question, what is it that you're looking for in the area that you're moving to? Do you want to be surrounded by forests and nature? Do you want to be far away from people? Are you looking for the big city life where you have a lot of cultural offerings? Or are you maybe interested in going to an area where there are northern lights? And once you're clear on your priorities, I would always plan a trip to come to Sweden and actually go and explore some of the different areas that you are thinking about. Because let's be real, on paper and on pictures on social media, many places always seem a lot nicer and a lot more exciting than they might actually be in real life. And I feel like when you go to a place and you see it, you drive around, you walk around, you just get a much better feeling of the place and if this is an area where you can imagine yourself living in. So for instance, for me, when I did it, I really knew that I wanted to go a bit more in the northern part. For me, having a proper winter with a lot of snow and northern lights was a top priority, plus being a bit away from people as well. So I would say those were like area-wise actually my main focus points. And then I just started to look at different areas in Sweden. And I had never been to the area where I am living in now before. So when I had found a couple of houses that were here, I was like, all right, I have to go there and look at the area, travel around a little bit and see if I like it. And I came here and honestly, I immediately fell in love with the surroundings. I thought it was just so beautiful. And I think for me that also really sold it to me, that I was like, okay, I think I wanna find a house here and this is where I want to look for my house. But if I wouldn't have come on this trip, I may never have even visited this area and I wouldn't have known what I'm missing out on. So I would say always, if you have the possibility, come on a trip here, if possible, a bit longer, and just travel around a bit. You may even stumble across some places that you didn't have on your list before, that you didn't even know existed, and then you maybe fall in love with a small town or just a region in general, and then you know a bit more precisely what to look for. The next point is to learn Swedish before you come here. And yes, learning a language is always a lot easier when you're actually in the country and you are surrounded by the language every single day. But I would say, especially if you are on the hunt for a job, it is extremely important that you already start to learn Swedish before you come here. Most jobs do require you to speak Swedish, and even though there are English-speaking jobs, you will most likely still need a bit of Swedish, Plus, the English-speaking jobs are very, very competitive because there are a lot of foreigners here in Sweden that are looking for English-speaking jobs. So you are in with a lot of other people hunting for the same kind of job. And there are many ways how you can already start learning Swedish while you're still in your home country. And then later on, when you have made it to Sweden, you can also join some of the free language courses that they offer here, which is called SFI. So it's like Swedish for immigrants, which everyone that lives here is entitled to go to for free. If I were to move again, I would figure out my job situation before relocating to Sweden. When I came here, I took a bit of a leap of faith and I came here with the mindset everything will be fine, I will find something once I'm there. But the reality is the job market in Sweden, and I would say in the world in general right now, is very difficult and it is not easy to find a job. It takes a lot of time. I've had many friends who sent hundreds of applications and they haven't heard anything back and they really struggle to find a job. So you definitely need to bring a lot of patience and I would say also funds with you in order to do that if you don't have a job lined up already. I think for me, if I would have had a job lined up already, it would definitely have removed a lot of stress that I had in the beginning, because especially the first 2 months or something, I was not stressed at all. I was like, it's all good. I'm just here, I'm settling in. But I would say starting month 3, it definitely started to stress me out because especially when you're more out in the countryside, there simply aren't so many job offerings out here, you know? When you're in the city, it's usually a lot easier to find something, but out here, there isn't anything, or like at least nothing where I was like, yay, I want to do this. And it added a lot of stress to me because, I was like, okay, well, what if I am not gonna find anything here? How am I gonna figure all of this out? So having something already lined up would definitely have removed all this stress a little bit in the beginning. And now I was lucky, I'm from an EU country, so I didn't have to apply for any residency permit and I didn't need a work permit here. But if you come from a country from outside of the EU, you actually need to apply for a residence permit and you need to have a job contract lined up before you come here, and you also need to meet a certain salary threshold, and I think at the moment it's around 30,000 kroner per month, which is maybe around $3,000 per month. And this is also something, if you are out in the countryside, it's not so easy to get those kind of jobs, because not even if you're working in the supermarket, you know, where you could be like, all right, maybe you don't speak Swedish so well and you just do some job where you're not necessarily forced to speak Swedish in the beginning, but they don't pay that salary, so it is a bit more tricky. So I would say if I were from outside of the EU, I would definitely only come if I have something lined up or if I have my own business that I can just move to Sweden. And alternatively, if I wouldn't have had a job before coming here, but I'm like, okay, I am gonna move and I do this now, I think I would at least have done a lot of research on like what are all the requirements that I would need if I want to stay working in my field. Is there maybe any special requirements here in Sweden? If I want to maybe do a complete change of job and I want to go into a different area, maybe of some jobs that are really needed here. I know, for instance, here we need a lot of people in the healthcare and what is it called? Elderly care services. So they also provide you trainings for this so that you can then kind of go directly into this field, which is nice if you want to do this. Otherwise, I also would have thought about, okay, what if I want to do my own business or freelancing services that, you know, you already have an idea what is it that you want to do job-wise, because then you can already do some of the preparations before you come, and then the process is a little bit easier than when you have to figure it all out at once. Because you also need to keep in mind, when you're moving in the beginning, there's often a lot of like stress and a lot of things you have to do in the beginning. So if at least this is a bit off your shoulders, that is quite a relief, I would say, and helps you to get settled in a bit better in the beginning. Moving abroad always requires some savings. Especially in the beginning, when you're just setting up your new life, you maybe have to pay some deposits, you have to buy your essentials for your home, etc. And as soon as you arrive here in Sweden, you also want to apply for your Swedish personal number as soon as possible, because without it, your life here is very, very difficult. And in order to get this personnummer, if you are from the EU, you will either need to prove that you have a work contract, that you are studying, or that you have sufficient funds to sustain your life here. And this is around 150,000 kroner per person. So this is also just something to keep in mind if you don't have a work contract lined up, that you need to have those funds in order to apply to register here. If you come from outside of the EU, the whole process is a bit different, and the amount of funds you need is a bit dependent on what kind of permit you are applying for. But since I come from the EU, this part is not really my field of expertise, so I think you will have to look this up yourself if you are from outside of the EU. Talk to people who have already moved here. And I think in this regard, social media is just so extremely powerful and helpful. There are so many people out here that have already taken the step and they have moved to Sweden, and they might be on social media sharing about their lives. So I think it is always a good idea to look for people like this, get in touch with them. Maybe they have some advice, some tips that you haven't thought about, and yeah, they can just share their experiences with you. I think also here on YouTube there are so many different accounts where people share about their experience of moving here. There are different Facebook groups where people maybe from one country get together and ask others about it, what it's like. So I think social media is really extremely helpful in this regard. And then also later on, once you have moved here and you live here, it's so helpful to get in touch with people who might be living in your area, to maybe meet some people for a coffee, and just to get a bit of a social life going. So for that, it is super helpful. And I think I've probably said the word helpful now 10 times already, but it is helpful. Also for me, when I had just come here, I think when I started sharing about my life in Sweden here on social media, I also had a lot of people that started to reach out to me because maybe they were living in the surroundings or they had some tips. And it's just so nice because in the end, people want to help and people want to share, you know? So don't feel like you are bothering anyone or that you're a burden. Most people will be very happy to share about their own experiences. And the next point is one that I definitely skipped completely. I didn't even think about this for a second, but it would be to rent first and then buy. So unless you have found the house of your dreams or you are really certain about a certain area that you want to live in this area, I would say it is a good idea to find a place to rent first, maybe for the first 6 months, 1 year, whatever time it takes, just to settle in and get all the initial things done without having to think about that you're also a house owner now. You will have a lot of different things to do in the beginning with like all the bureaucracy and settling, and you need to open a bank account, a Swedish one, which is also something you need actually in order to buy a house here. And there are just a lot of different things you need to do in the beginning. So when then on top of this you also are a house owner, you may have to do renovations straight away because you can't yet live in the house. Like, there are many things that would come on top of this. So I think it is good to maybe not have this stress right from the beginning. Plus, you then also have the chance to figure out if you actually like the area or the town where you are living in now. Because when you just come as a tourist or a visitor, also many places can seem very exciting or fun, and then you live there and after some time you realize, no, there are things that bother you. You don't like the vibe of the town, you don't like this, or it's different than you had imagined. And of course, when you purchase a home, you are a little bit more bound to that place than if you were just to rent, then you always have the possibility to say, all right, this place is not it for me, I might move to the next place and find something else there. And that is always a bit more complicated when you bought a house. Of course, you can always sell, right? Like, nothing is forever and permanent, but it is of course a lot more of a hustle when then you also have to take care of this again. And also for me, maybe this would have been a good option for me as well, to like rent something first before buying. So I love the region where I'm in. I think it's one of the most beautiful ones here in Sweden. And I also do love my house, but if I would have maybe rented something first somewhere and then would have had the time to explore a bit more in the area. As I had mentioned before, I had never been here, so I didn't go around all the different places that are here, so maybe then I also would have perhaps settled for a very different place here, or would have bought a completely different house. And it's just something you never know, right? But if I would have to do it again, I might actually think about just renting first and then looking to buy different houses after I have figured out what place maybe suits my needs the most. And with that we also come to the last point, and that is to set realistic expectations and not to expect that your life is magically going to become perfect just because you've moved to Sweden. Sweden isn't perfect, just like no country in the world is. There are many, many great things about living here in Sweden, but there are also things that are not so great and that you will discover over time. I think especially in the beginning and before moving, we usually tend to romanticize everything a lot, and we imagine this place we're thinking about to be like this magical place where we think that all of our problems and will be gone and that life will be so easy. And I think it's just important to go into it with the mindset that you will still face a lot of challenges, especially in the beginning when everything is new and you're just like arriving and you are learning to live in a new country that might be completely different from your own. And for me it was the same thing. Like, I always had the most romanticized view of Sweden, like throughout my entire childhood and life. I was like, once I live in Sweden, my life is gonna be amazing. And don't get me wrong, I do love living here and I love my life that I have here, but it isn't all perfect. And there are a few things that do bother me here, but there are also many things that I think are much better now than what I had before, you know. So it's always a bit of a balance act. It's just important to keep that in mind. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope this was helpful in any way. And I would love to know from you in the comments if you have any more questions, or if you maybe have some tips for people in the comments yourself, if you have maybe moved here that you would like to share some insights. I am sure everyone would appreciate it. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.